Good evening. Welcome to this episode of the Dallas Top 3 Professional Development. My name is Saina Kande, and with me here is Sarah Hopkins. We work on the 7 Equipment Maintenance Squad. Today's topic is what is your why? First off, I want to say thank you for being here with us today. I know it's Friday, and most of you are ready for your 3-day weekend. The why, today's topic again is what is your why? I try to understand what the question is, why? But I can't find a real definition of why. So, Sergeant Hodges here has his own opinion of what why is.
Yeah, so for me, the why is that force that drives what it is I do. It helps me to carry on and go to my day to day. It's for me, it's largely my faith and what I believe. So what I believe drives how I behave, how I interact with each and every one of you, how I interact with you. So for me, just that why is the driving factor of what it is that you do to help you understand and kind of help you guide your everyday decision.
So basically, what we're saying, everybody have their own personal why. There's no definite definition of why. Some of the questions you ask yourself when you're trying to understand what your why are. Some of the questions you ask, why do I do this? Why do I do what I do? Why do I value this over that? I'm a maintainer. What a maintainer is, we work on the aircraft. And there's something called correct course of action. So, anytime we have some issues in the maintenance field, we as leaders, we ask the questions, why? Why did this happen? It's called the 5 whys. Eventually, when we ask ourselves why, about 5 times, you get to the deep root cause of the problem, or the deep root cause of the purpose of your why in life.
Okay. And with those whys, looking deeper into your own life, some of the questions that help guide you to maybe figure out what your why is simple things. Why is it I'm doing what I'm doing? Why do I go to work? Why do I play a sport? Why do I go to school? Why do I pursue this or that? When you ask those questions, what is it? Does it give you some sort of satisfaction of what it is you do, or is it to provide for yourself? So, for instance, we go to work. It could be for you. Maybe some of us said, "I'm going to join the military, United States Air Force, to defend my country, to serve others, to do better for myself, for my family." But asking those simple questions helps you to determine what is really driving you and what serves as that source of motivation for you. Because like Sergeant Kande said, it could be different for all of us, okay? And it most likely is different for all of us. I know for me, my why, if I can explain that, large part is my family, again. But that's centered on my faith and what I believe. So based on what I believe in my faith, my family is a huge part of that. And then serving others is also a huge part of that. So, and that's why the core values, our core values for the Air Force are great, because they fall in line with what I believe. Integrity. Integrity. Number one, gotta have integrity. Okay, your word is your bond. So what's gonna drive me, if I say I'm gonna do something, that's what I'm gonna do, because I need to hold with that integrity. All right, service before self. Crucial, vital. All right, serving others is a part of what we do every day. All right, excellence. Excellence. We gotta shoot. We gotta shoot for the top. Shoot to be the best version of ourselves that we can be, because when we're doing that, we are going to help others. We are going to strive for excellence.
So, Sergeant Hodges talked about what why, man, and why some of the people, some of the responses that you get. Most of the basic response we get whenever we ask that question, why? Typically, for most of us in the military, sometimes you ask why you join the military. Most people talk about because members of their families are in the military. Some people talk about because they want to provide for their family. Some people talk about because they want to be successful in life. No matter what those whys are in life, no matter what your why is, there are always 3 factors that pushes those whys. And here we are with those factors that drive those whys. The first factor is goal. Goal. There are several instances where everybody has a goal. Your goal could be a self goal. It could be a goal for your family, or it could be a goal for others. So some of your self goals, I don't know if we have people online right now, if they can give us and send some messages online, tell us some of the questions you have, some of the goals you have. If you can share some of your self goals, or the goals you have for your family, or some of the goals you have for others. Once we get those responses, we'll talk about it as the podcast is going on. So basically, talking about goals, self, family, or others. So I heard this, since we're here, we don't have an audience right now here present with us since they're in cyberspace. Can you tell us some of your goals for yourself?
So some of my goals for myself, let's see, I can think recently. So one of my recent goals that I was blessed and fortunate to accomplish was to attain a second associate's degree in management. So I've been pursuing that for a while, and just this past year I finished that up. So that was one of my goals, and I'm still pursuing even further to a bachelor's. Even goals coming here. So I arrived here as far as to Dias last October. So I just hit my year mark. But my goal coming from where I was at overseas was to get my family settled in, my wife working, children in school, home, vehicles, everything paid for while we were doing the in-transit. So I was still stationed overseas in Japan, brought my family to Dias last summer of 2019, and then had to go back to Japan to finish my tour out there. So yes, I was very nervous, very worried about that, but I had faith everything was going to work out. So my goal for that was to have a smooth transition for my family and for them to not want for anything while I was away. So that goal was accomplished, probably worked out better than I had even anticipated, because we were able to get here. We purchased a home, we bought 2 vehicles, my wife started her job, kids started school and everything, and we did that all within the span of about 40 days or so. And then I had to fly off back to Kadena. And even within that time, I was able to receive my TMO shipment, my household goods, before I left. So my goal was to have my family settled in, and that goal was accomplished. And as you can imagine, I was very happy and excited about that. But those are just some self goals, short term, within the last year for me. But as we go forth in life, we got to set those goals, those self goals. Now, some of you may not have the family members as far as immediate household with you. Maybe you're a young individual and your goal is to maybe save up some money over the next year. You can do that, but you got to set the goals for yourself. You got to have something to shoot for. If you don't have anything to shoot for, what are you going to hit? You got to aim for something. Have those short range goals, those medium range goals, those long term goals, and then you'll find things working out better for yourself.
Again, so I heard you talking about the goal, talking about the targets. You know, when you have a goal, you have a target. The next factor that was talked about was motivation. Whenever you have a target, you're going to have those drive, those motivation that's going to push you towards those goals. And some of those factors under that motivation, one is discipline. You have to be disciplined. You know, in the military here, we all know about the discipline. You have a goal, you want to be whatever it is, you want to make rank, you want to get that BTZ, you want to progress in your career, you want special duty, whatever it is, you have to have a goal. And once you have that goal, you have that motivation behind it to drive you. Basically, hard work. That's another one that we're talking about, hard work. We all know about hard work. Without hard work, you can't make it to the top of the ladder. You have to put in that work day in, day out. For those of you going into the gym, talking about, maybe your goal is to lose some weight. Maybe your goal is to gain muscle. Whatever it is, you have to have that hard work. And what does that hard work look like? Which is the daily things you do in life, which is what we're talking about, the why. It's a driving factor. Consistency, that's another one they talked about. When you have a target, you have to be consistent. When I'm talking about consistency, you're talking about the process of how you attack those goals. Consistency, if you're not consistent, especially when you're throwing darts. Most of you over here, you go to the pool hall or the club, you have those dart machines. If you're not consistent with your stroke, or even for those of you that play golf, you play golf.
I don't play golf.
I don't know anything about golf either, but I know definitely when you're talking about consistency, you have to have consistency. I know you play basketball, though.
Yeah.
So tell us something about consistency when it comes to your shot.
So consistency. Why I like the discipline, hard work, consistency. They all go together because that will establish your growth pattern, your growth cycle. So I do want to go back to that discipline and that consistency. They go hand in hand. You can't have discipline without consistency. All right. So that discipline, that consistency, that hard work, that's day in, day out grind. All right. Day in, day out grind on the job, day in, day out grind on your life. You have to keep pursuing. Like we talked about earlier, you got to shoot for something. So your day in, day out grind starts when you wake up. And I like to say a good day is based on one good decision at a time. All right, you got to make those good decisions consistently. But you have to discipline yourself, means you have to train to make the right decision. You don't just wake up and start saying, oh, I made the right decisions one day. It takes time, development. Okay, so that discipline, that hard work, that consistency, that's what leads to the growth factor. All right, but I like hitting on that discipline because training goes hand in hand with discipline. That training, that is a huge aspect. In training, you can look at a lot of different kinds of training. We talk about physical training with sports and everything. So yeah, it's the same thing. Whatever sports you do, you're gonna train. Over the course of time, you have spent hours and hours and hours. You see these professional athletes, professional basketball players. I heard somebody talking on the radio the other day talking about Steph Curry's shot. A lot of people think that they can just walk out there and start shooting long range 3-pointers and everything. It doesn't work like that. That young man has devoted time to his training, to his profession. So there's not going to be anything overnight. It's going to take hard work and dedication. That's something else that goes with that discipline and consistency.
Thanks for that, Connie. So finally, part of that motivation also is growth. How can you grow? You can't grow if you're satisfied with the status quo. So again, for example, I'll use something, analogy where everybody understands. The gym, for instance. If you go to the gym all the time, you say you want to gain some, you want to gain muscle. You go over there, you start lifting, let's say you start with 10 pounds. In order for you to grow, to get stronger, you have to go up. You have to keep going up. So for those of you going to the gym, you understand what I'm talking about in terms of growth. So same thing applies in your life, military life, your family life, your goals. You have to have growth in your life. You have to have growth in whatever you do. And that growth, how do you measure those growth? And how do you come about those growth? Coming about growth, you have to have experience. You have to be able to try new things. Give that drive, that motivation to go out there, to try new things, to accept that growth. Finally, we're talking about happiness. That's another factor that drives your why. Happiness for you or for others. What does happiness look like? How can we define happiness?
That's an excellent question. I like to go to you. I want to hit back on that gym point that you said there. When you talked about the weights. So weights, they hold you down. So weights, we're talking about resistance now. So resistance and growth. The only way you're going to grow, you got to go through some things. There's going to be some resistance along the way to build you up. So it's the same thing with you lifting weights. You're not going to get nowhere hardly trying to do things that are so light for you. All right? The more resistance, the more growth. So that resistance, I think about that in life. So some of you have gone through some things, unfortunate circumstances, whatever the case may be, but those experiences that you go through in life are there to make you stronger. So now you know what you've been through, you're able to make it through that. Now you can go forward, and that helps with your growth, because you're going to grow in your mindset, you grow in experience. So that right there is critical, it's vital. And as we live longer, we progress in our profession, move up in rank, whatever it is that you're doing, as you go further in it, you have more experience, you have more growth in it. And talking about happiness, man, a lot of folks it's a shame. I see throughout the course of my time living, I've seen a lot of unhappy people, for whatever reason, they're unhappy. And I think about this. If we do things, looking for things like in our daily professions, we're responsible for a lot of people. We're responsible to a lot of people. But myself, I know Sana Khan, we don't do things to get a lot of money. We like taking care of people. We like that. And honestly, taking care of people brings me happiness. Taking care of my family brings me happiness. Now, I don't like a lot of things, you would say, material things. I don't really do a lot of material things, but that's not what brings me happy, the material things. So for me, my happiness comes from knowing that I'm able to be there for others and to help others along with their journey.
Great. So it's funny you said something about what brings you joy, what brings you happiness, and I didn't get to find what my why is until this lesson came up. I was actually brainstorming when this topic came up, and eventually I dug deep down and looked all around my entire career and was like, what is really my why? And I know most of you asked me, because we initially were in the same flight together until about 2 months ago when I left. You all ask the same questions. Why do you do what you do? Why are you here till 6 in the morning, till 6 in the evening? Why are you bringing all these people in here, showing them how this goes and everything? And I keep saying to myself, you know what? That's the right thing. Why? I couldn't figure out why. People ask me questions. Why are you always dropping everything you do just to go and help somebody? I couldn't figure it out. But now when I put all the pieces together throughout my 22-year career, I looked at it and I was like, oh, you know what? This particular lesson let me understand what my why was. And my why is making sure others are good to go. Service. Making sure other people are good to go. That's what brings me happiness. And you can attest to it. In the past year that we worked together, you see how whenever maybe it's your Emmy getting promoted, you see that smile on my face. People are actually like, what does that have to do for you? I mean, it doesn't matter to me. All I care about is that Emmy is happy, that person is happy, and I made a change, a positive change in their life. That's my why. Talking about what why, the why changes all the time. The why do not stay the same. For instance, we're talking about going to the gym to lift weights. We were one of, back when we were like, 17? Maybe for you, maybe that was like, so a few years back, we're old here, we're old men. Back in the day, maybe about 20-some years ago, when we're younger, like 17, 18, our why back then is, hey, let's go to the gym, let's get some muscles. But then, when you start getting older, your why changes. You have family now. You have family, you have to watch out for your family. Those Nike shoes, that's it. That's not your why no more. Those nice sports cars, that's not your why. Lifting weights and, being, what the weight lifts like Vin Diesel or whoever they are, that is not your why. Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's not your why anymore because now you've changed, you've grown, you've moved forward, and you have a different direction in life. And those why will always change. But no matter what those changes are, the factor still remains the same. The goal, the motivation, and the happiness. You have to be able to find those factors, make sure those factors, no matter where your why changes, you still keep those goals. And I'll give you an example. Example about myself. I may sound a little bit selfish about this, but my first 10 years in the military, which as a maintainer, everybody looks out for themselves. We're always looking out for ourselves, making sure we get to the top, doing what needs to be done. Yeah, trust me, I was a hard worker, but at the same time, you have to look out for number one, which is yourself. But that changed about 7 years ago when I got an assignment to go be a military training instructor in BMT. Got to BMT, have about 60 trainees at a time. I'm talking about from different backgrounds, white, black, green, whatever, from Asia, from different parts of the world. And the moment something dawned on me when I told them to go do laundry, and they looked at me like I was crazy or something, I came to figure out that these individuals literally did not know how to do laundry. And that shook me, and that's when I changed my mindset, saying instead of for myself, I'm going to start watching out for people to have a positive impact on people's lives. And that's when I decided to become a teacher. When I'm saying a teacher, a coach, a mentor, guiding people along that line to make sure they succeed in life. And my why changed at that point. And to this point, till this day, right now, I think some of those backgrounds of what I did back then is what motivates me today, and that's what kept me going till today as my driving factor of my why, making sure people succeed in what they do. That's my experience of how my why changed. You have an example of when your why changed.
Yeah, so that's great that you mentioned that ability to empathize, understand that folks are coming from all over the world, various backgrounds, in this great United States Air Force, and that's crucial to be able to understand, to be able to meet people where they are, and to help bring them along. And that's great. That's an awesome thing, and it's a proud feeling to know that you helped somebody out in life. And the thing is, we help people, and we may not see the immediate impact because some of these individuals, we're talking about maybe 18, 19 years old, but when they're 25, they're going to be somewhere because of the impact that you were watching, that you had in their lives. Whatever words you spoke to them, encouragement you gave them, training that you gave them, it is huge. But for me, and of course it's true, yes, your why changes at the different stages of life. So me, I came in young man, 18. My why was way different from it is today because I had a different understanding in life. Just coming in young, I could say back then, what comes to my mind was having fun, playing ball, career. I won't even say I really understood what that word meant, a career, but as I went along, I would say what really started snapping in my mind when I realized I could actually maybe do something with this Air Force career is ALS, so Airman Leadership School. Some few years ago, however many years ago that was for me, I actually did really well in there, and the thing that really stuck out in my mind was all I was doing was just being me. I was just being myself, and other folks saw that and saw the leadership potential, saw certain things in myself, and that really snapped something in my mind and said, "Hey, wow, I was just doing what I do. I was just being myself." And that kind of started cementing and solidifying things in my mind with, "Hey, if you are who you are, it's going to show. It's going to shine through." So folks who may not be genuine and are chasing certain things, and some individuals may say whatever about them, but if it's not genuine, people can pick up on that, they can tell. But when it's genuine, you have genuine sincerity, genuine leadership, that care factor, people can also tell. So that's when it started to snap in my mind. And then from there, my career started taking a different track. And I'm blessed and fortunate to be here today because at one point, it was not going to be so early on in my career. So I'm just blessed and fortunate to be here. What I will say is we're talking about why. Understanding who you are and knowing your identity is really going to solidify your why. So if you know who you are, that's going to help drive your other decision making. So the best leaders understand who they are because they understand why it is what they're doing. Because you have leaders and then you have those other leaders that really stand out and stick out to you. But you got to know who you are. You got to understand your identity. If you don't know who you are, you're gonna sway with the wind. All right? And then it's gonna have questionable decision making for you. And you'll be inconsistent. And you'll have less discipline. You understand who you are, that's gonna guide that. Now, whether people don't like the decision making, but fairness is another thing that comes to mind. A wise man told me, fair, firm, consistent. Fair, firm, consistent. All right? So you can't do things to just appease people, but at the same time, you need to be able to stand up and stand up. And you're only really going to stand up and take a stand for things when you understand who you are. I firmly believe, a great man once said, you don't stand for anything, or if you don't stand for anything, you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. All right? And I truly believe that. You gotta make the decisions. Decisions may be tough. Some decisions are easier, but I tell you what, the more consistent you are with that decision making over time, those decisions do become easier because you understand it's just the way that you live. It's how you operate.
Because yeah, so one thing I took away from what you said something about genuine. You know, some of the people have to be real about what they do. You know, it has to come from the heart. You know, many times we've seen individuals that just do stuff on things because, hey, you know, it's just let me just do this. You know, for instance, we went to the food bank. I took a lot of some of our people went to the food bank, and I've been doing that for a while. Went to the food bank, packed some food for kids, and during that time frame, packing the food, the gentleman at the food bank told us, "Hey, we really appreciate what you all doing here because right now you are feeding at least about 2,000 kids that have no food over the weekend. That we're packaging things, you know." So the reason why we do what we do, most of those individuals in there initially they were, "Hey, you know what? Let me just do this because my kind said, let's go do it." But after the fact, they came back and said, "You know what? It actually touched me because I know I'm doing something to affect somebody's life in a positive way." So whatever you're doing, the reason why most people are not happy is because they don't have a genuine reason of why they do what they do. If you have a genuine reason of why you do what you do, you actually find out that you're going to be happy. Happiness comes from within. You know, it comes from within yourself. Nobody else can give you happiness. You have to find it deep down within you. And that's what that why is. You know, we talk about going to work every day. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do this. Yes, most people don't like the job. There's a reason why they don't like the job. But when you keep striving day in, day out, find other avenues, things that you find interesting in that job, you're going to be looking forward to going to that job and your happiness will eventually come. Slowly but surely. It doesn't come overnight. You have to work at it. You have to practice at it. That's one of the whys that we're talking about, the why. It goes deep down, and you have to go deep down within yourself to find exactly what that why is. Keep asking yourself those questions. You know, the focus areas for focus area of why. We're talking about several focus areas. I don't know if you can see the slide online right now. We have self, military, ministry, sports, gym, life. So focus area of why. One of these six areas could be your focus for the why. It could be yourself. It could be the military. It could be for those of you in the ministry at church, or mosque, or whatever the religious area is for you. Whatever the why is in that aspect. For those of you that want to be in the NBA, NFL, or whatever sports you are, that's your why. That's the reason why you join, or the reason why you do things you do in life. That is your why. You just have to take all those factors that we talked about, incorporate that into the focus area of your why. For those of you in the gym, same thing applies. Your why, focus areas, have a focus, have a target. Life, same thing, have a target. All this focus area all ties back to that driving factor, which we talked about earlier. The goal, motivation, and happiness. If you combine all three of these things, all these factors, you will understand that your why eventually is going to bring you that happiness that you seek. What are some of the focus areas of your why? You know, I know you talked about your family initially, but you know you said your why shapes around. Yeah. So as of right now, this moment, what is your current why for you?
So yes, the why did shift over time, but it's been pretty much the same over these last several years, though, as I've grown and developed. And like I said, my faith earlier, so that surrounds my faith in God, drives me to be the best husband, best father I can be. Not saying I'm the best man or anything by any stretch, but I'm reaching and striving for something. I'm pursuing that. Also, with being the best man I can be, that's being the best example I can be to others. So whether that's at work or out in public, there's a certain line that I'm going to walk because that's what I believe and that's what drives the way I operate. So there's a certain way I'm going to speak to individuals, and it's not depending on how they treat me or how they speak to me. So if individuals act a certain way, that's not going to change my behavior and make me act out a certain way. So I know we see a lot of things in society. I try my best not to live my life depending on, well, if they do this to me, I'm going to do this to them. So I live, hey, no matter what they do to me, this is how I operate. This is how I hold myself. This is how I walk. This is how I talk. This is how I speak. But that's one thing, and that's that discipline and consistency. Because believe me, that did not happen overnight. That did not happen overnight. And young man Hodges, Airman Hodges, would not be speaking the same way. But like I said, it's that growth. And I had to go through some things to learn those lessons and to really start trusting and believing in that. But that's what my foundation. That's one thing. You're gonna have to have a strong foundation so you won't be shaken. All right. The foundation is gonna hold you up. You got a weak foundation, everything's gonna crumble. So think of it as building a house. All right. You build a house. Every house has to have a strong foundation. You got a weak foundation, that house will crumble. Okay? Strong foundation, get those cornerstones down, start building up. So you build from the bottom up. What that means, maybe even professional wise, you can look at it for those of you who are interested in professional wise, that realm. You got to build from the bottom up. So you need to be building the habits right now that are going to carry you for the rest of your career. So I tell some of my young folks, when they're training and everything, we got CBCs, upgrade trainees. You don't skip and go to shortcuts. You learn everything the correct way. You read that book, that technical order for our maintainers out there, but you build those habits that will stay with you. Those things will stay with you throughout your career. And that way, when you're in for 5, 6, 7 years, 15 years, you won't have skipped the steps to build yourself up. Because it's unfortunate, but we do see it from time to time that individuals did not have that foundation. They didn't have those habits. They didn't have that discipline because when they were younger, they didn't focus on it. And their foundation was weak. And then before you know it, it crumbles because there was no foundation. And then you're building something later on in your career that you should have built in the beginning. But that's just my thought about the foundation, because that's also what helps your why. Why did you do what you do? And if we look at the self, military, ministry, sports, gym, life, I look at myself exercising now is not the same for me as it was however many years ago. Exercising for me many years ago was, I'm hitting the weights, I'm in the basketball court the same night, no problem. And then I'm in there in the gym for hours, the weekend in the gym for hours. Now, I don't have time for that. Priorities have changed. And yes, my body has changed, and I get tired just a little bit faster now, So for me, exercising now is strictly about health. I would like to maintain healthy heart, healthy blood flow, just do a little bit, do things to keep me going. But it's not about being in the gym for hours and doing all that stuff. Some of y'all can still do that, but my priorities have shifted, and I got quite a few more things going on in life now than I had previous years. So that's all that ties in though. So sports, gym, military, that's a source, that is my main profession right now. So that provides, and then also tied into the military is education. So I'm able to keep pursuing my education to help for when I do take the uniform off permanently. I have taken advantage of the wonderful opportunities that the military and the Air Force provide for you. Tuition assistance. I was able to transfer my GI Bill because I don't plan on using that. So I want to transfer that to my children. So if they don't get a scholarship, which I strongly believe they will, one way or another, academic, athletic, but at least each one of them will have a year, and that's 3 of them. So you get 1 year apiece, or 12 months apiece, however that works out. But these are the things I'm looking forward to now, long term. And that does bring me joy and happiness to know that I'm blessed to be able to provide, to be there for my children, to have traveled the world, various missions, and to be walking and healthy. Because everybody can't say that, and unfortunately, not everybody is here with us today that maybe started a career with you, or started life, or you knew years ago. So these things happen in life. But for me, realizing what I'm thankful for, and that I'm still here, I feel I have a duty and obligation to bring somebody else along to help other people out.
So thanks, Aaron Hodges. On one thing I want to touch on again is for the people at home that just joined. Uh, we're talking about the why. We're talking about the why. What is your why? To keep it basic and simple for you, in order for you to understand what your why is, you have to ask your question. Those questions over and over again. When you get the first answer, go back to the next why. You get an answer, go to the next why until you find the deep root why of what you do. So talking about that, he mentioned something about the Air Force core values, which we know integrity first. No matter what your why is, incorporate those Air Force core values into military why or the civilian why or whatever you do, sports, gym, ministry. If you incorporate those Air Force core values, integrity first. Have that integrity when you go into your why. Have integrity. Service. For me, like he said, for me, myself, is service for self. Always watching out for others. I'm not saying don't watch out for yourself, but when you do what you do generally to make a positive impact in people's lives, you find out that happiness comes for you. That happiness comes. Today I googled what makes people happy, and one of the things that popped up was I think it was a psychologist actually talking on that side. He was like, you need to go all the way back to your childhood sometimes to find happiness. And when I looked at it, I was like, what is he talking about? And I kept reading and reading, and oh behold, I was like, wow, you know what? This made me smile, and I think I found a little happiness. And don't judge me on this, because I went back to my childhood and found out that, I really love cartoons when I was young, like Tom and Jerry, and, I love cartoons, Then, even as a grown man, to be honest with you, I'm not gonna lie, when there's a movie called Happy Feet. When that movie came out, Happy Feet, I wanted to see the movie, but I took my son to the movie with me to pretend like I'm taking my son to the movie. But that was for me. Because the reason why I know was when my son stood up, he said, hey, I want to go use the bathroom. I'm like, no, this is good stuff right here. We're going to sit, we'll sit right here, watch this movie. You're not going to disturb my movie. That was like movie theater. So when I read that today, I was like, wow, sometimes you have to go all the way back to your childhood to find out happiness, a source of happiness for you. Some of you go skydiving. That's not something for me. Skydiving is just way out of it's out of my realm for happiness. You have to try new things, new things to find out happiness. That's one way to find out happiness. To find out what your why is. You find out your why, you find out a way to address your happiness, and that's where it's going to go for you. So, in summary today, we talked mainly about some things. We talked about what why is. To me personally, I don't really have the definition of why, but you talked about how why could change for everybody else and what it is.
And I talked about how the why is for me is that driving factor. What drives you? Why is it that I do what I do every day, day in and day out?
But the why, everybody has their own why. Again, we don't really have a definition of why, but you have to find your own why. Whatever that why is, and you find it, just make sure you use those factors. The three factors we talked about: the goal, the motivation, and the happiness. Use it to find your why, and hopefully, every single one of you, once you find your why, you can find happiness, and you can move forward to make yourself grow. Finally, Sergeant Hodges, I know thank you for being with us today and for doing this podcast. I know you also have the final disposition of what you want to talk about.
Yes. So with this and helping others, myself and Captain Howard, Whitney Howard of the Med Group, we are the wing POCs for the Combined Federal Campaign for Diets. And I would like to just encourage each and every one of you to find out what is your cause that you would like to help, what you would like to further, to promote, to be there, to sow into. Okay, so your cause, that could be whether you want to support the children, the youth, the education, animals, the homeless, anything like that, the shelters. But the CFC, there's over 6,000 charities. You can go online, CFC Giving, go online, set up your profile and give. Yes, they are virtual now. So you can do the old hard copy form. If you're local, you can come find, you probably check your email on base. You should have received some emails already. But if you go ahead online, CFC Giving, just go ahead and take a gander on that. And there's all the charities. The charities have videos that you can see. Watch a short minute of how you're impacting them. what a few dollars can do to impact them. Of course, I want to encourage you to give heavy and give full, but give what you can. All right. If you are fortunate enough to have something in your bank account, there's many people around the world that is international. So you can look up your state, you can look up around the world, and you can have an impact. The mantra is be the face of change this year. So the face of change could be yourself, the face of change could be myself. Why don't you come and be a part and be that face of change?
Thank you very much. Do we have that slide up so they can see the website for the CFC? Hopefully, so maybe the audience at home can see that.
Yeah. So we don't have that slide up, but if you just go to that website there, it'll take you to wherever your region is. So those of us in the great state of Texas here, we're in the North Texas region for that CFC website though. But CFC Giving, there is even an app now that you can download after you create your profile. So that way, once you create your profile, you got the app, every year you can give. Okay, and the campaign runs on Dice. We're doing an active campaign all the way up to November 13th, but the actual whole campaign you can give until January 15th. So I repeat, the campaign is open until January 15th, but Dice, we are actively campaigning till November 13th.
Okay. Again, thank you again for joining us on this episode of the Dice Talk 3 podcast. We hope each everybody have a nice, happy 3-day weekend.
Yes.
And again, finally, while you're making up this video, we can rest assure you that we have kept our social distancing, and please be safe out there. Thank you.